So I'd like you to take out your permanent marker. And what I would like you to do is you're going to draw divisions on the apple. I want you to draw right on the apple. So what I'm going to do is take the marker, and I'm going to look at the apple facing down, and I'm going to go to the stem core, and I'm going to mark a point here, and then directly across, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock. I'm going to mark a point here, 3 o'clock, and I'm going to mark a point directly across. And this is where you have to be careful. So what I'm going to do is take the first line, the 6 o'clock, and I'm just going to follow it straight down the apple by turning the apple and holding the pen. So don't really move the pen. Keep the pen steady. Notice how I'm steadying everything with my pinky. And I'm curving the apple with my left hand, and I'm allowing that line to draw back to the center core on the opposite end, what we call the flower end. So you see what we did there? And now we can turn it and do the same. Again, pinky, make it nice and straight. Try to have this line stay nice and straight, right down. And you should end up dividing that apple right in half, like that with a line. We're going to pull it like this. We should have a nice perpendicular line that way. And then we'll do one this way. There we are. But you can see what we've done there is we've divided our apple into quarters. We call these vertical quarters. Then what I'd like you to do is to turn the apple on its side, mark the center as best as you can of each of these quarters. And depending on the shape of your apple, that point can be in different positions. And then once you've done that, if you turn it this way, you're going to be able to connect those dots because you'll be able to see two of them at once. So you can see what I'm doing here, like so. And then what we're going to do is we're going to divide it further. So I'm going to put a line now halfway between the middle and the contour. So this is the contour I'm concerned with, right where my finger is. Do you see what I mean? So I don't want to worry about this back contour. I want to worry about this frontal contour. Okay, I want to be really halfway between. And I'm going to do it again here. Now notice this is a little longer because the apple has a weird shape. And so I'm going to mark the halfway point. This is the longest one because the shoulder of the apple on this side is quite high. And then we do this. And now you can again see that I can see two of them at once. And so I'm going to be able to connect the dots. Now I'm going to do the same for the bottom section. And again, you can see some of them are going to be longer than others depending on the shape of the apple. So I'm going to mark the center. And look at how this one is shorter. This one's very short. And this one's kind of medium length. And again, now I can see two of those dots at once, so I'm going to connect those dots with a line. Let's turn the apple then back, looking straight down at it from above. And now we're going to mark the line in between the first four that we drew. So those 4 quarters, we're going to divide those into eighths. So I'm going to mark like this and like this. And I'm going to turn it and mark again, center and center. And now what you can do is many things. I can mark the center of these 2 points and then connect the points like this. Or I can do that process of just rotating the apple slowly this direction, and it usually does a nice job of drawing that line through. Okay? You want to be staying as close to the center on these last lines as possible. Now, if you're a little imperfect, it's not a problem, but try to be as close to dividing this apple up into nice geometric pieces as possible. So when we look at this apple now from this angle, we can see that these lines that we drew are going to change depending on how we rotate that form, okay? So notice right now I'm seeing a whole lot of those top lines that we drew, the eighths. I'm seeing all of them like spokes of a wheel, right? Which places the stem portion really far down into the contour of the object. I'm not seeing very many of the bottom ones. They're very skinny. On the other hand, if we rotate it a little more, now I'm seeing more of the bottom and less of the top. And this is because my apple is kind of crooked, okay? Okay, and now what we have in front of us is a pattern of lines, and these lines are not just insignificant. These are the lines of what we call cross contours. And cross contours are lines that can run around a form, both laterally and vertically, and they can do so regardless of the outer contours of the object. So we can see in this case that the outer contour of the apple is over here, and so if we were to draw that apple, we would be drawing a curve that bulged to the left. But the cross contours are also bulging, and they're moving down, they're kind of sloping downhill, right? They're creating sweeps. And that is because we are looking at this apple from a certain eye level. We're looking basically down at it slightly. Now watch what happens to these curves, these horizontal curves that are creating those ellipses, the vertical divisions. What shape of line is the center vertical division? And so if my pencil can line up perfectly with this line here in the middle, what we know is that that line is straight. Now let's face it, this part of the apple is still bulging towards us. It's still curving. But because it's in the center of the object, our vision sees it as a straight line. But what happens to the line just to the left of that? If I hold my pencil next to this one, does it line up? Not at all. If I hold my pencil up to the next one, I can't even come close to lining it up. In fact, the final line starts its life being visible, and then it just follows the edge contour of the object, doesn't it? And that's happening on the opposite side as well. So what does that mean? It effectively means that when we have contours that run vertically through the object, what we call cross contours, vertical cross contours, that in the middle of the form, if it's a form that has dimension, those are always going to appear flat and straight. And as those lines move around the object, they're going to slowly become shaped like the contour. They're going to become more and more like the outer contour. So the outer contours and the inner contours work together. It's the same the other direction. If you look carefully, you'll notice that these horizontal curves are becoming more curvy so that they actually start to replicate the bottom contour of the apple. So the bottom line here is that we have outer contours and then we have inner contours, and the two are always going to work together. So the first thing we're going to draw is the shape of the apple in a series of contours, okay? And we're going to look at where the shapes turn and how that apple appears in its general position in terms of what we call outer contour. We did this the other day. If you want to use your straight lines and apexes, go right ahead. It was very effective. But then what I'd like you to do is start to also draw and measure, not just draw, but really look at them carefully. I'd like you to draw the lines that you see that are made with Sharpie marker and the way that they curve around the form. And what you'll notice is that when you draw these lines, they follow the workings of that apple. Okay? How's that looking? Do you see where we're going with this? Now, in drawing them, I want you to really focus on exactly how they're bending. Because if you happen to have an apple with a dent in it, that line might actually start its life nice and curvy, and it might actually go like this. And that little bend is creating the feeling of a dent. But you'll also have that happen on this line, where something like this might happen. A little bend, a little dent. And now, because of these two lines doing that, we start to feel that there's an imperfection in the turn of the apple right there.